All right, kiddos, so this is very similar to the last example of the previous video. All right, very key lesson here. All right, so now in order to factor by grouping, I need 4 terms, but this bad boy only has 3 terms. So I have to split that middle term. I'm going to write it as 2 things that would combine to give me a negative 23n. All right, so when you're going to do this, you're going to look at any polynomial, any quadratic that's written in this format. And if you multiply the highest degree and the lowest degree term, that's our a times c times x squared, that's referring to here. And then the middle term here. So what I need is something what 2 terms multiply to make the product of the first and last, and add to give me the middle term. We call that the little puzzle. It'll make more sense as you see I go through a couple here. Okay, so if I give you this problem, this is what I'm thinking. All right, our first term is 6n is our first term, 7 is our third term. Multiply those, it gives me a 42n squared. All right, and then the middle term is the bx, or the negative 23n. You'll hear us refer to this as the AC term or the b term, negative 23n. So I'm asking myself, I got to solve this little puzzle. What will multiply to 42n squared and add to negative 23n? So I just looked for products or factors of 42. 6 and 7, n would add to 13n. That doesn't work. 21 and 2, that works. Well, it gives me the 23n, but they need to multiply to a positive and add to a negative. So they have to both be negative, because 2 negatives will multiply to give me the positive 42n squared and add to give me the negative 23n. So I rewrite that trinomial up here as a fournomial. Right? I split that middle term into something equivalent and write it like this. And if I did add those together, it'd be equivalent to negative 23n. Now I just factor by grouping like we did in the last video. The first group, GCF has a GCF of 3n, leaving me with 2n minus 7. The second group, see how it's a negative 2n and a positive 7? It's the opposite signs of what I have here. Well, if I factor out a negative 1, or undistribute that negative 1, then I get a 2n minus 7 twice. So now I can factor this out of those 2 groups. So it gives me 2n minus 7 times the 3n minus 1, and that is our factored form. If I did multiply that back together and combine like terms, I would get what I started with. All right, so let's see that again on the next problem. First thing you're going to do is take out the GCF, which is 2 in this case. So now I'm really just looking at the v squared minus 6v plus 5 to factor. So what multiplies to 5v squared and adds to negative 6v? Well, they add to a negative and multiply to a positive, so that's 2 negative terms. Negative 1 and negative 5 multiply to 5 and add to negative 6. So I got to tag along this 2 on the outside, and it's just going to tag along for the rest of our simplification or factoring. So I just write it like that. And now I'm just worried about the blue inside there, factor by grouping. So I group the first 2, factor a v out of each. Look at the second 2, factor a negative 1 out. I get v minus 5 twice there, so that's my first group. And then v minus 1 is the second group. Let's pretty that up a little bit, and there's our final answer. Pause anytime you have to, or rewatch if you have to. Now look at this third example. There's no middle term. The bx is 0. So I need something that multiplies to negative 100x squared and adds to 0. Well, I tried 2x and negative 50x. That didn't work. Negative 4x, negative 25x. That didn't work. Negative 10x and 10x. There we go. We got a difference of perfect squares here. So rewrite it as that. Now if I did combine these, it would be equivalent to the 0x term there that's missing. So it is equivalent. Factor the first group. X factors out. 10 factors out of the second group. We got 2x minus 10, so those factor out. X minus 10, x plus 10. There's the answer. All right, good luck on the practice, and you know where to reach us if you need any more help.